I do believe, yet help me in my unbelief. Have you ever been stuck between belief and unbelief? Faithfulness and faithlessness. Oftentimes when there's a lot of chaos and the emotions are high, it's very difficult to be logical, to think clearly and straight. But there's a key that we don't want to miss within that chaos. And we have a moment, an opportunity to watch a story with the Messiah and a man and his boy to pick up a very important lesson that I see reverberating throughout the whole gospel. I'd like to share that with you. We'll start in Mark chapter 9, verse 14. It says, "And coming to his taught ones, he saw a large crowd around them and scribes disputing with them. And immediately when all the crowd saw him, they were greatly astonished and running near greeted him. And he asked the scribes, 'What are you disputing with them?'" See, at this point, they have some argument or confrontation or something going on, and he comes and everybody's like, "Okay, he's here." "What are you disputing about?" he asked. And one of the crowd answering said, "Teacher, I brought you my son who has a dumb spirit. And wherever he seizes him, he throws him down, and he foams at the mouth and gnashes his teeth, and he wastes away. And I spoke to your taught ones, and they should cast him out, but they were not able." And he answered him and said, "O unbelieving generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring him to me." Bring him to me. So we see at this point that this guy has a situation where the boy is possessed and he's foaming and gnashing his teeth and foaming at the mouth. In verse 20, it says, "So they brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit threw him into convulsions, and falling on the ground, he rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And he asked his father, 'How long has he been like this?' And he said, 'From childhood. And often he has thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if it is all possible for you, have compassion on us and help us.'" I find this story remarkable, especially as we back up to verse 20. It says, "And so they brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit threw him into convulsions." Have you ever had something not working and you took it to get fixed, but when you took it to get fixed, you couldn't find what the problem was? You're like, "Oh no, now it wants to act right." Maybe your car was messing up and there was this clicking noise or something with a computer. You brought it and you're like, "Why is it not doing it now?" Because if they can show it now in the presence of the expert who can fix it, he could diagnose and fix it. I can't believe that when the Spirit saw him, he started to act a fool in the presence of the Messiah. And I'm looking at this picture thinking, oh my goodness. No, he didn't just do that right here in the presence of the healer, the master himself, the one and all, and you want to act crazy now? I'm thinking if I was the evil spirit, I would have kept it together like, "Hey, ain't nothing wrong with here. We ain't doing nothing. Don't touch us." But he went crazy right there. So I'm watching and waiting. Ooh, something's about to happen, because right here you can see that he's not crazy, because we don't want to look crazy, right? We're like, "Hey, there's a problem with the car, the computer. In this case, my boy, he's been doing this," and all of a sudden he's acting calm. I'm like, well, at least you know I'm not crazy. But yeah, here this boy is going crazy in convulsions on the ground. And watch what happens. "And falling on the ground, he rolled about, foaming at the mouth." I mean, this is a whole event. I mean, this is intense. If there was a doctor there, you got to jump on it. Whoa, we got to get this. Hold on, back up, guys. This is an urgent moment, would you say? Something needs to be done, because this boy is going through it right now. I can't imagine what he was feeling. But what did the Messiah do? Unbelievable. He asked his father, "How long has he been like this?" Excuse me, do you not see my boy? Do you not know what's going on? You want to have a conversation about his history and what's been going on? How long has this been going on? And he said from childhood, he's often thrown both into the fire and water. And verse 23, and Joshua said to him, if you are able to believe, all is possible to him who believes. Look, I got one thing that I want to share with you that stood out to me in this lesson. Since the moment the Messiah showed up, he was concerned about one thing. Sure, he wanted to heal the boy. But when he showed up, what did he say? In verse 19, O unbelieving generation. He was so bothered and so distracted with the lack of faith here that the boy was not a big issue. The crowds and their discussions was not a big issue. I can deal with that. It's the lack of faith that I see here that really boggles my mind. How long shall I put up with you? Bring him to me. This unbelieving generation. And he is not left this thought process of saying, what about your faith? How long has it been like this? Anything is possible for him who believes. If you are able to believe, all is possible for him who believes. In verse 24, and immediately the father cried out and said with tears, I believe, Master, help my unbelief. In the same sentence, he cries out that I do have faith, but help me in my lack of faith. Have you ever been there? I believe, but help me where I don't believe. Look, the man has some belief. He brought the boy to the disciples. He's there talking with the master, but obviously there's something that's amiss. There's something that's not right, that's not whole in his faith. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but the Messiah sees it clearly. You don't fully believe. You don't fully have faith that I can do this. And so you're struggling. You know, it reminds me of a scripture in James that says, but when, if anyone lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts, watch this, is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. He shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. Wow. It's almost as if these scriptures are being read over this situation right now. He shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. James chapter 1. Wow. And what do we see here? A man crying out saying, I believe, help me in my unbelief. And the Messiah saying, you can do it if you just believe, but you're conflicted. I can work with faith, but you're conflicted. You're double-minded, unstable in everything you're doing, because there's a duplicitness here. There's a dichotomy. There's two things and two beings going on in the same body. You can't have fear and faith at the same time. That's another lesson. You can't have, they won't stay in the same place. Either fear will take over or faith will take over. The very definition of faith, or should I say the very definition of fear, is this impending doom or something's going to happen. And faith says just the opposite. I'm so sure and so certain of what's going to happen, even if I don't see it. It's just the opposite. And yet this man is conflicted. So one quick thought that I want to leave with us today. If we're asking the Messiah to work, are we bringing it to him with the attitude of faith? Look, we could say easily, look, I prayed about it. Obviously, this man did something. He made the trek, he made the trip, he went and talked to the disciples. He did something. He had some belief, but obviously something was missing according to the Messiah. He says, you need to believe, have full faith in this. And I believe this point and this lesson will unlock it for a lot of us right now. Unlock so much of his power waiting to work in us if we just choose to believe. I think to close here, God is asking us, how long will you hold back your faith? How long must I wait for you to get there before I can work? It's not him oftentimes that is waiting to work. It's our lack of faith that's keeping us from seeing him come through in those challenging times, in the relationship. Have faith. I believe that this is going to change, and I walk in that faith. I'm praying about it, and I'm really giving it to him. I'm not holding on to it. Have faith, and don't be stuck between faithlessness and faithfulness. I'm fully in. Look, that's the one thing that stood out to me is you gotta be all in with your faithfulness. And when you want to vacillate, you gotta say no to the enemy. No to your own spirit. I totally trust and I believe him. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time.